hello to all those watching. Welcome to another 4 program video. My name's Syed. Hope you guys are doing well. In this video, we're going to be going over a surprise lesson. You guys wanted it, and we are going to do it for you guys. We are going to go over Bernoulli's Principle, and it is essentially going to be associated with air resistance today. This video, we're going to be going over really what it is, and we're going to have a lab attached with this Bernoulli's Principle lesson. So, without further ado, before we begin, though, for those watching, hope all your health is going well. And yeah, we're going to have, I hope you guys it's days before Thanksgiving. So hope you guys have a very good Thanksgiving. You guys can travel, travel to another state, visit relatives, stay at home with family, eat turkey, mashed potatoes. I can't wait for that. Hope you guys have a good Thanksgiving as well. So without further ado, let's start and let's begin. Currently right now it's sunny, thankfully, which is a good thing. But yeah. Let's begin. So, what is Bernoulli's Principle? The definition in mechanical physics terminology, it's really the whole mechanical energy of the moving fluid, which includes 3 different types of energy, which is gravitational potential energy of elevation, fluid pressure energy, and kinetic energy of fluid motion. All 3 of these types of energies, or parameters in this case, remain constant. Generally speaking, what does that mean in general? Really, how fast moving air results in lower pressure. Now, in physics terms, really, we have a relationship that occurs between 2 different parameters. It's an inverse relationship between fluid speed and pressure. So to think about it like this, we have, as fluid speed increases of an object, pressure will decrease, and if it's the other way around, if fluid speed decreases, pressure will increase. The pressure is associated with the air pressure specifically. So yeah, generally speaking, with Bernoulli's Principle, we always try to question really how fast moving air results in lower pressure. Because, well, it doesn't have to be how fast moving air results in lower pressure. It can also be, how slower moving air results in high pressure. So really how moving air results in pressure. That's really the general terminology that we kind of interpret with Bernoulli's Principle. A fun fact that we should, that's kind of cool is that, it actually explains how your shower curtain gets, sucked inward while showering. The fast moving steam creates a low pressure area. There's a low pressure area gradient between you and the curtain, and while the higher pressure on the other side pushes the curtain in. So on one side there's a lower pressure, on the other side there's high pressure, and that's really allowing the curtain to get sucked inward, especially when you shower as well. And that was a really fun fact. That's very, very cool, especially when you shower. So yeah. So here's a good example of Bernoulli's Principle being shown here: lift of an aircraft. On an aircraft specifically, we have the wing, and we can see that there's high velocity going in one direction of the airflow, and we have low velocity of airflow going on the bottom of the wing. Low pressure is being applied on the low pressure is being applied on the top part of the wing. High pressure is being on the lower part of the wing, and we can see here that there's lift due to the pressure difference because one side is low, the other side is high. There's lift that's going to be generated. We're gonna show you guys a NASA simulation. I think there's one more video with Unit 3. We'll show you guys that regarding with lift in general. We also have high pressure that's being there, and the direction of flight's going to the left direction. So that's very, very cool of how lift is essentially generated in an aircraft. You guys should also take a look. I recommend taking a look at one of our videos that was about. We did a whole video with regarding with going over simulations. Take a look at those NASA simulations. They're really, really cool in going over lift and how aircrafts move. So yeah. I think I have something here that I want to show you guys. This is a video link. If you guys want to take a look at this, is a video link. This is a really good video. It talks about just in general how Bernoulli's Principle functions. So, yeah, for those
what will happen if we create a strong airflow between 2 balls suspended?
So really, they're going to go over here in this case a experiment. This is from Get a Class Physics. This is a very, very cool channel. You guys should take a look at this. So we're seeing here that they're going to go over how pressure and sorry, I had to just a brain freeze for 1 minute. How fluid speed and pressure work together essentially.
On threads. It seems that the flow should push the balls apart. We switch on the blower, and surprisingly, the balls get attracted by one another. They are rotating, which means the airflow is getting through between them. Why isn't it pushing them apart? Let's carry out another experiment. We attach a funnel to a hose and switch on the blower. Then we put a rubber ball into the funnel. Instead of bouncing out of the funnel, it gets sucked into it. We turn the funnel upside down, but the ball isn't falling out of it. So why does the airflow hold the ball in the funnel instead of pushing it out? A similar experiment can be conducted.
So yeah, this is like going over like a minute. I'm not going to try to take too much of your guys' time, but in this video really they're just going over like a pipe section of an experiment, multiple experiments that are being generated, and how Bernoulli's principle is being incorporated within these experiments. So you guys should take a look at this. This is a really good video. Definitely take a look at this video. It's really good. So now let's go over now the inverse relationship between, really what the inverse relationship is between fluid speed and pressure. So really the air moving out fast, it spreads out. So really what's happening in this inverse relationship is that the air that's moving out, it's moving out very fast. It's spreading out in many varieties. And it's becoming thinner and thinner and thinner. The air that's moving out, the particles are becoming a bit more thinner, and then the less pushing force is inside the fast moving air. So as the air is kind of moving out, right? It's like moving outside. As they're spreading out more, there is a less pushing force because there's more variation, because the more spread out it is, there's less force that needs to be there because, you know, as they spread out, they're like, you know, just in motion, in constant motion afterwards. So the slow air has more time to push, so that means that the pressure is stronger, because if it takes that time more to push, especially when they're like, you know, in varieties, if they're spread out and, you know, they're in like orbit and they're in motion, the slow air is going to push more. So the more push that it needs, the more stronger air pressure is needed to make them move around. So the fun fact about this is the fast air doesn't push hard as slow air. If there's slower air, that means that, you know, you need more pressure to make that air move around, essentially, in general. So that's really cool. Now let's take a look at this. Is a fun lab activity that was talking about, I believe, the inverse relationships, if I'm not mistaken. So let's take a look at that.
Hello, welcome to the next episode of Old School Science Demonstrations. I'm your host, Stephen Rakusik.
So this one over here, they're going over essentially a Bernoulli's principle demonstration with a bag. It's a very good scientific demo. SDPB. This is a very good channel that goes over a lot of like experiments regarding like physics and whatnot. So this is really cool from South Dakota. It's very cool.
Here we're looking at Bernoulli's principle. Simply stated, Bernoulli's principle is an increase in velocity results in a decrease in pressure. Now, there's more information in the lesson plan right next to the video on the website. Definitely check that out. Okay. All you need for this is some long tubes. Now, these are actually called Bernoulli's tubes. Now, if you Google Bernoulli's tubes, it'll show up using a science catalog online. And what they are is just long tubes, and you need to tie a knot on one end, and they come in a bunch of different colors. Okay, and they're about, I'm guessing, a couple dollars each. They're not very much. And if you buy, you know, a set for your classroom, you'll have them forever. It'll also work with garbage sacks, but not quite as well. It doesn't have the length like these do. Okay. Now, what you would do in a classroom, or at least I always did, is I always set this up as kind of a bet. Okay. So I usually had 4 tubes here. Now I would have 4 students come up, and I would challenge them to blow up the tube faster than I could. So I would give each student essentially 5 breaths. If any of the students beat me, there was no notes for that day. Okay. Now if I beat them, then there was notes and no complaining. So notes for the entire 50 minutes. It was awesome. Okay. But the key to this is that you can never lose. It's a little trick to it. I do have a volunteer intern. Sarah will come up here, if you will. Okay. And I'm going to challenge her. We each get 5 breaths. Okay. So you see the 2 here, and you see it's just like a big balloon. And we'll give you 5 breaths to see how much air you get. Okay. We'll go ahead and count them here. And this is the entire class will be counting. Okay. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. All right, we'll see what she has here. That's actually pretty good. And I always compare, you know, the student. If you think about their lungs, it's actually pretty comparable as far as the amount of air they can put in there.
I just want to say right now, like this, like, you know, the experiment's really cool. And right now, like, you know, this like the shape of this, like, you know, the bag, it kind of reminds me of, like, you know, those like Tootsie like candies. It kind of looks like that when you like wrap it together. It kind of looks like it, which is kind of very cool actually.
I'm gonna show a couple different tricks then to this. Want to handle this actually, sir, if you would? Okay, I'll try this now. And this is again bet for notes the entire period. Now all you have to do, essentially, is take like this. I get 5 breaths, right? You want to count them for me?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Have you seen this before? No. Okay, here we go. Okay. Pretty slick, isn't it? See, all I did there is I actually used Bernoulli's Principle, and it's kind of like cheating. Now, most kids will say you cheated, but I took and I blew air in it from farther away. Now, what she did is she took individual breaths and used her lungs. So she went. Now, your max capacity is the amount of air you can blow out. Now, some kids will even take and use one breath and go and breathe it back and forth. They get a very small amount, which is kind of cute actually if you see it. But in this case, what I did is I took and I stood back and I blew air from back here. So according to that principle, I increased the velocity of the fluid. So it's moving faster right here. As a result, less pressure. So I actually sucked in air all around it. So I'm going to blow into this. You can see in one breath you can blow that up. Pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right. I hope you enjoyed this demonstration. I guarantee.
Yeah, so this is really cool. So you can see here that like at a specific position, like essentially this experiment, for those who didn't see it, this is essentially where if you just at a specific position, at a specific distance, if you blow, you can blow like the bag in like one shot. So like you don't have to like blow it repeatedly, like to make it like a, like a little tootsie kind of shape of a bag. But in this case, like you can do it also in one shot as well. So that's very, very cool. It's really fun of an experiment too to also kind of see, which is very cool. Which is awesome, and it's awesome to see. Like I'm curious if I should go to like a local deli or a local shop and then blow those bags. That's insane. That's incredibly insane. So yeah, now let's go over now the applications of really where or how Bernoulli's principle can be maintained. So some examples here are as followed. So for example, when a car passes you very fast, you feel some kind of pull. And that pull comes from the air. Now, what is that? That's the lower pressure beside the car. When we think about these kind of examples, think about it like this. And I'm just trying to give you guys, I'm not trying to force you guys to kind of see my mindset. I'm just trying to see if you guys want to, I'm just trying to give you guys some examples when we talk about, Bernoulli's principle. Think about both pressure and think about both air pressure and fluid speed. So for example, that's the very first example. Think about it like that. Whenever you feel a pull, there's a low pressure that's beside the car. When a wind blows between buildings, it actually feels stronger when you're between those buildings because the speed increases the fluid speed and the pressure actually drops. There's an inverse relationship being applied. When a shower is on and the curtain gets pulled, we talked about this before, there's lower pressure inside the curtain when you're showering, while the outside it's not so much. The roofs can actually lift in storms. The fast wind on top lowers the pressure as well. So here's some good examples here, these are very cool. The strong wind lifts off a roof. This is actually very, very common in hurricanes, and I want to show you guys a very cool example of one of these. But it's not really, I'm not going to say right now, it's not cool that, roofs can be blown off because there's a lot of liability that you have to pay for with property and all that damage and all.
He's the main chef of DB Kitchen. He's excellent chef.
So Rabia's brother-in-law, Rick.
So I'm going to show you guys specifically. This is from the Weather Channel itself. The Weather Channel is very good with all the weather stuff. I'm going to go specifically to the part where, the rooftop gets blown off. I think that's very, very crucial.
The wind.
Oh my God. Your roof is big!
The roof lifts and settles. The walls shake in the wind. As neighbors look on in horror.
There it goes.
Finally, Sarabia's roof, their only cover from the deadly storm, tears away from the house.
Hurricanes are very dangerous, as we know, and this one this is from the 1992 hurricane. For those who don't know, this is the 1992 Hurricane Iniki that moved parts in towards Hawaii. So you can see here that it started blowing off parts of the roof, and then it just blew off the whole structure as a result. So hurricanes are very strong. When roofs can lift storms, the fast winds, the speeds of those fluid speeds on top, and with low pressure, it will blow the whole thing away, which is very dangerous. That's very dangerous. So we should always, have good roof structures, and we should always have a good safety plan, especially when we have these kind of disasters kind of happening. So now let's do some. There's two critical examples I also want to show you guys as well before we start our lab for today. Here's two applications. One is for aircrafts and the other one's actually birds. They both fly high in the sky, guys. They fly high in the sky, guys. I believe I can fly. Yeah, that's saying right there, guys. Anyways, application first, number one, how Bernoulli's principle can be incorporated. Wings are curved on the top and flatter on the bottom, and the air moves faster over the top of the wing. As we mentioned, there's lower pressure on the top, high pressure on the bottom. Now, the higher pressure under the wing pushes up the lift. So, I'm sorry. Yeah, the lower pressure's on the top, right? Yes, okay. Yeah, I had a brain freeze for 1 second right there. Yeah, but there's higher pressure under the wing that pushes up. That means that the lift of the wing is going to be generated. The other application of how really Bernoulli's principle can also be incorporated as well is through birds. Birds' wings also have that same wing curve shape. Because remember, airfoil, it's not essentially the air curvature or the airfoil. It's not really linear. It's curved, like you can see here, just like this. You can put a bird's wing in here. It's the same kind of behavior. So the bird wings, hey, they have a curved shape. The fast air is on the top, low pressure, slow air underneath the high pressure, and it creates lift for the birds to glide. So you can see here that there's constant air pressure. You can see that there's reduced air pressure on the top, and there's constant through here, and there's higher air pressure on the bottom. So yeah, we're just seeing here that how airfoil is behaved when you see certain wings of certain objects, but also living things and non-living things. So yeah, here's a good video from, I believe this is about the mechanism of...
Get up to 70% off store-wide and Michael's Black Friday sale. Shop in-store or online today.
Cole, he's my miracle child. So how does your miracle child get cancer? How does that happen?
There was a mass.
Yeah, guys, we have to help kids live as well. Yeah, we should also support St. Jude's research. Yeah, definitely, for sure. We want to see kids live, so yeah. Take a look at this ad. Yeah. So this is Hussein Biology. He goes over the mechanism of the flights and birds and how they operate. So yeah. Let's just go like straight into Bernoulli's principle. So yeah, let's go over there.
Bernoulli's principle. Bernoulli's principle can be defined mathematically as V is inversely proportional to P. What V and P is? V is velocity and P is the pressure. That means V is directly proportional to 1 by P. This is the same case. So where V is higher, P should be lesser there, because they are the inversely proportional to each other, and this is the case with the Bernoulli's principle. Actually, the Bernoulli's principle applies for ideal fluid flow. But here, in case of birds, we see there is no fluid flow, but there is air that interacts with the wing. Wing acts as a solid and the air acts as a fluid flow. Diagrammatically, we can see how air interacts with the wing. The airflow, just when it comes towards the bird, the air bifurcates in two ways. One over the wing and another below the wing, that's beneath the wing. There's a displacement of air towards the wing that causes the lifting of the bird, that causes the force due to the lift. Now,
so you can see here in this diagram over here, I'm just going to go to the final diagram over here. But yeah, same behavior. We can see here that where the high and the low pressure are being incorporated. And yeah, we can see really how the lift is being generated on the mechanism of the final bird. So you can take a look at this. Hussein Biology really goes over really how birds behave, and really for those who are bird lovers or bird pet owners like me who happens to have birds like me as well. Yeah, birds, they have good lift and they can fly. So yeah, take care of these birds. Make sure birds are very amazing creatures. So yeah. Now let's take a look at Bernoulli's equation. Bernoulli's equation over here is as followed. We have a lot of equations over here, but I'll just go over really what it is. We have pressure energy, plus that by the kinetic energy per unit of volume, plus that by the potential energy per unit of volume, is equal to this first system is equal to the second system. So the V1, the P1, anything with the subscript of 1 is before, anything with the subscript of 2 is after. So energy per unit volume before is equal to the energy per unit volume after. So the V represents velocity. P, I believe, represents, I think it's pressure, if I'm not mistaken. This is pressure. This is pressure, and I think this is like, you know, these are all pressure, I believe. P represents pressure, I believe. So we have flow velocity going in one direction, and flow velocity, both of them, both before and after, are going in the same direction with the P. So we can see here that there's an increased fluid speed, and if that decreases internal pressure. This is essentially what we're seeing here. First system before, this is after. We can see here that the more fluid speed that you have, the more pressure is going to decrease because there's an inverse relationship. And this is known as the Bernoulli equation because there's a reduction in pressure, which occurs when the fluid speed increases. Yes, because inverse relationship, essentially. So we can see here that if there is an inverse relationship, that means that, you know, for example, the velocity after will be greater than the initial. The initial pressure will be greater than the initial than the after pressure. And yeah, we have A2 is equal greater than A1. I'm not sure what A2 and A1 really represents here. So don't worry about these. Worry about these two parameters. This is the pressure and this is the velocity. So you can see your speed and pressure. You can see that there's an inverse relationship applied here. Now let's take a look at our experiment. So we have a experiment that's specifically on the NASA grid, so we can show you guys what it is. This is actually a good teaser of a experiment. We're gonna just make some claims in this experiment. So this is like what it looks like. We have like, you know, pressure, temperature, candle, some system over here, and we have like, you know, a graph that's incorporated. So we're gonna just test this out, and we're gonna make some claims. We're gonna make 4 different claims with 4 different parameters we're gonna test. We're gonna freeze certain temperatures. We're gonna freeze either temperature, mass, volume, pressure, and then we're just gonna see what happens. And we'll make some claims based on our observations. So here is what it is. This is the graph. So let's go directly to the simulator. So this is an animated gas lab. Gas is essentially related to air pressure, so that's why I wanted to do a sort of lab for you guys in this demo. So welcome to this lab. We know what gases have certain properties. Scientific observation has determined that these variables are related to one another, and the value of these properties determine the state of gas. So yeah, they give us like, you know, really what each thing represents. This is the end button, and this is the previous button. So, you know, that's very cool. And you can see here, this is the Charles and Gay-Lussac's law. So, you know, we have over here, you know, really how this is going to be tested, really. We can see here that the volume is directly proportional to temperature, really. So V equals C times T. I believe C represents some kind of a constant, if I'm not mistaken. So that's very, very cool. So, without further ado, let's begin. So, let's say we freeze mass. Okay, mass is frozen. Alright, so let's go to volume. We can animate 2 parts into this. We can either do effective changing of temperature on temperature, or we can effective changing temperature on the pressure. So it could be either pressure on temperature or temperature on pressure. Let's do pressure on temperature. So you can see that it's being generated, mass and volume. So between the temperature and pressure, it's increasing. Let's make a new case right now. Let's say we have the mass frozen this time, and let's say we can do temperature on pressure. It still increases. It still increases the temperature, and the candles still work. So from this experiment, really, if we just test mass by itself, we can make a good claim that mass doesn't really have an effect on pressure or temperature at all, really. However, let's make a new case. Let's say, I think we can also freeze temperature, but let's take a look at if mass is frozen on pressure. So we can see here that's the effective changing on volume on temperature versus effective changing temperature on volume. You can see that there's an inverse relationship with mass as it increases, you know, temperature and volume. Yeah, it's inverse in temperature and volume. Again, this one, however, temperature and volume, does, you know, increase. Let's make another new case. What happens if we, you know, wait, let's see here. Let's do mass frozen. Let's do temperature this time. Volume on pressure. Ooh, curved. Okay, and we can see that there's a pressure volume. That's more steep. You can see there's a steep decline. And the temperature's not even moving. It's frozen. So, wait, it's frozen? Oh, wait. It's just mass. Okay. Oh, no. Okay. No, okay. Wait. Stop. Okay. mass, temperature, volume on pressure. Okay, if you want to do this one. Yeah. So we can make some claims here, for sure. So for mass has an effect. You can see based on this that it has an effect on volume. Doesn't really have effects on, between these cases. Doesn't really have an effect on pressure nor temperature, really. I think more so it has a direct effect on volume. So it has an effect on volume specifically. Not so much with pressure nor temperature, but we can see here that, not so much with that, but we can see here that pressure does affect volume. It does affect volume to some extent because you can see that there's an inverse relationship. If you put, I believe, wait, let's see here. If you go to if you freeze the mass, you can see here. Wait, not this one. Not temperature. Sorry, we were going to volume, right? Yeah. So volume on temperature. When we're talking about pressure, volume on temperature, it decreases. You can see if this one will go increase. So this one over here, it's decreasing. So mass has an effect on volume specifically. This is based on the pressure experiment. So, well, there is an effect. Well, sorry, there is an effect to pressure as volume decreases, temperature increases. This is the main critical. Has an effect on pressure, not volume. Sorry about that, guys. My apologies right there. So yeah, this is a critical investigation that we see from mass. For volume, let's take a look at volume. Let's say the mass was not frozen. Let's just do volume directly. Let's say the volume is frozen. So these are all these are all when they're frozen. Elsa frozen, let it go, let it go. Or it's frozen, get it? Frozen Elsa, Okay, so let's do volume frozen. Let's see what happens with the mass. Let's see pressure on temperature. It increases. Temperature on pressure, it increases. There's not really any too many changes that occur. Let's see if the pressure anything happens. Oh, mass on temperature. Oh, that's interesting. That's an interesting one. This one has a special kind of curve, and that's between the temperature and the mass. Okay, so now let's see what happens if I do the temperature. There's one here, mass on pressure. It increases. It's a steady increase we can see here. So the main thing that we're seeing here is from the pressure side is that the mass, as mass increases, temperature decreases. Volume has an effect on pressure experiment. So as mass increases, temperature decreases, especially when it's frozen. So that's a very good observation we can make on that one. Everything else steadily increases, which is interesting. What if the pressure is frozen? Because now we're seeing a lot of this is based on pressure. So the mass, volume and temperature. Okay. And this one's increasing, temperature and volume, okay. Let's see if I do the volume. Okay. Yeah, so we're seeing that, and then if the pressure is frozen, temperature steadily increases. So it does have an effect on volume, and it does have an effect on mass to some extent. Yes, it does. So we can see here that pressure has an effect to the mass and volume. There are several inverse relationships that you can see from mass and volume. So you guys should take a look at that. That's a definite critical one, especially if they're frozen. You can see that kind of thing kind of being played out here. Now, what if the temperature is frozen? Let's see that really quick. If the temperature is frozen, what can we say? So let's say the temperature is frozen. Let's see what the mass is. Ooh, the mass is special here. We can see that it's now like a curve. It's not like, a line anymore. And we can see that this is also decreasing. So as pressure increases, the volume will decrease. Okay, but it's like at a different curve. As pressure increases, volume decreases. You know, my apologies on that one. Volume, it just steadily increases. Not really so much there too. Pressure, not too much. So temperature affects the mass. Temperature has an effect on mass. There is a curve when we see here that the mass, when volume on pressure is applied, when volume on pressure is applied. And this curve is an inverse relationship. You can see that this is like going the other way. Inverse relationship that occurs when that's happening. So that's very, very cool. It's very interesting and very interesting to observe here in this experiment. So yeah, this is a good experiment, and yeah, these are some claims that we made that we can make here. So we can see that mass has an effect on pressure. Volume has an effect on pressure as well. Pressure itself, if you freeze that, it has an effect to mass and volume. And temperature has an effect to mass. Now, just keep in mind, I'm just doing this based on the notion, under the notion that we can say that if things increase, if a candle's lit up, that's normal. But I'm just saying it under the notion to the fact that if there are curves, if there are certain inverse relationships to kind of consider, then that's kind of where I'm kind of basing the observations at right now. So for those who are wondering, so yeah, these are some good parameters that we can see. And temperature has an effect to mass. There's a curve that's inverse relationship, and volume and pressure is applied. It's not like, a straight line. It's like literally a curve. So yeah, this is a good experiment. So yeah, you guys should take a look at this. This is the NASA stuff. It's very, very cool. It has a very good stuff on aerodynamics and a lot of aerodynamic stuff. This is very, very interesting. It's cool. So yeah, now that we're done with this video, yeah, for those who are wondering, any questions, feedbacks, upcoming lessons, please feel free to email us. You guys can also contact me as well. And when sending questions, related or off related, or the question you have, send a picture associated with the diagram, and we will respond when we have the chance. Thank you guys, and this is Syed, signing off. Take care, guys.